Hey, welcome everybody. It's Monday the 5th. For some of us, there were firecrackers last night. For some of us, we have a numb fingertip from a sparkler that maybe some of us shouldn't have lit so close to our fingertips. So let that be a lesson for all of you. I think, yeah, there's a number of us, well, there's people from all over the world on the call, which is great. There's some that are from India, and I recognize, I think it's not so much firecrackers as it is just crackers that's how they're referred to. But I'll tell you what, in the US, like, crackers, that means a whole different thing. and actually, I suspect maybe some of you don't know that that's how you might refer to a Caucasian in the US, in not the nicest of ways, actually in a very derogatory way. But so since I'm Caucasian, I can say that. All right, enough about my pale skin. Good. Well, we've got, and enough with the silly jokes. So we've got about 22, 23 people on today. Fantastic. That gives me a sense that maybe we should talk about what the heck this meeting is about and what we're doing. So I'm gonna fill in that. I'm gonna answer that question because I think it probably is on a few people's minds. Again, drop your name into the meeting minutes and drop in any items that you have for discussion here. One thing we would probably do well to have, I guess we've got a link to this spec. This is kind of a good background for some of the things that we're doing. Let me say this. So, hey, my name's Lee, by the way. I think I've gotten a chance to meet most of you. Before I explain the technologies and what we're here to look at, I'll say that there's a couple of names that are perhaps new on this call. And so now is your opportunity to get to say hi and just do a quick introduction if you would. And so Suhani, maybe Surya Shankar, Mr. Das.
Hi there. Am I audible?
Hello. Yeah.
So I'm currently a third year computer science student. I'm interested in development and open source. So just joining here to get some more open source experience, like you could say.
Totally. Yeah, great. Very nice to have you. Whereabouts are you dialing in from?
I'm from India.
Oh, good. Boy, I can't tell by the accent. I'm not that good. Where are we talking? North, south, east, west?
You could say central, like
Middle?
Maharashtra.
Humid anywhere whether anywhere it was. Okay, good. Cool. So, Surya Shankar, it's nice to have you. Good to meet you. Good,
Hi, I'm Suhani Agrawal, and I have introduced myself in the last meeting, but let's do that again. So I am a DevOps engineer, and I have 3 years of experience, and I'm here to enhance my skills, and I'm happy to be part of this community.
Nice, Suhani. Very good. Yeah, thank you for that, by the way. There's always, there's like always somebody new on that hasn't gotten to be introduced to people who have introduced before. So like thanks for introducing again, like a good thing to do. Nice. Suhani, did you end up digging into an issue recently? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, good. Yeah, it just, one of my biggest pet peeves is idle fingers, or people who are here to engage and learn and do stuff, and nobody invited them to do something. So that's not the case for you. So good. All right, very good. Anyone else that would like to introduce? Got a bunch of people who've been around for quite some time. All right, fair enough. So by the way, just ever so briefly, the discussion that we're having today, this is one of the Layer 5 community meetings we have. Well, not only do we have one a day, a lot of times we'll have multiple a day. So earlier today, we had the websites call. There's like 5, 6 websites, and not just websites, but other front-end initiatives that are stewarded and curated by the community. So we just had that about a little over an hour ago. And so this one is focused on, well, some newfangled way of computing is one way of thinking about it, but it's the notion that there's this, relatively emergent layer of cloud native infrastructure, a service mesh. Quite powerful they are. And if I can speak like Yoda more, that might be funny. But they are extensible as well. And one of those areas that there's been different ways that they can be extended. It depends on what service mesh you're speaking about. One of the ways that they can be extended stands to become somewhat commonplace for extending the service mesh's proxy and how it filters traffic as requests come in, as it sees traffic. The ability to grab a packet, grab a request, inspect it, and reason over it, do different things about it, redirect it, stop it, send it to the bid bucket, replay it, capture it, store it, there's maybe change out so if Mr. Das is signed in and you see his JOT token, maybe you want to put replace his name with someone else's. I don't know. You can manipulate the packet. So pretty interesting. That means that a lot of some amount of business logic can be run inside of the infrastructure itself. A lot of power to be able to manipulate what happens to traffic. So it's an interesting area, specifically WebAssembly as a framework, as a build time, as a runtime environment, as a virtual stack machine in which you can write small programs that will execute your custom logic in this case, in context of an Envoy proxy. So there are 4 or 5 service meshes that have Envoy-based data planes, which means that most likely, eventually, all of them, and whether they officially support it or not, they inherently support the insertion of a custom filter into that proxy. So a filter can do those things that I was just mentioning about intercepting packets and doing intelligent things with them. And there's overhead in doing that. If you imagine if your packet is going along and it's intended to hit an HTTP endpoint, if it gets intercepted along the way and introspected and something done with it, like that takes a millisecond or 2 or 400 or something. And so analyzing the performance of these filters is something that's been a topic of study for the community in the past. And as a matter of fact, some of that study is now a CNCF project called Service Mesh Performance. That's the name of the project. And this site, smp-spec.io, talks about what the project is about. But part of it has been, we need to get this link fixed, but part of it has been a study of, let's see if, this isn't going to work, I think. But anyway, there's an interesting talk there given by a PhD candidate at the University of Austin, Texas, where he talks about the overhead, the performance overhead involved in using like a WebAssembly filter to do some traffic function, like retry the request or rate limit the request, versus doing that in the natively in different ways. It's not just Envoy's Envoy proxy that it supports extensibility in this way. Well, I should say it is Envoy's proxy that supports WebAssembly programs as a first-class filter. There are other types of proxies used in different service meshes that have different plugin models. So I don't think we've talked about this before, but this is also somewhat compelling. Traffic mesh from, well, it used to be called Continuous, but now they're called Traffic Labs. They have one of the service meshes that Meshry interfaces with. It's called Traffic Mesh. It's well, on the simpler side of service meshes, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, I mean that in a complimentary way, that this service mesh is built around a different type of proxy. It's not built around Envoy. It's built around traffic proxy, the traffic proxy, which is their most popular project. That traffic proxy now has the ability to, or I say now because it's somewhat recent, the ability to have plugins. And there is a plugin. Uh-oh, what is going on? I guess this is on traffic, but if there's a similar ecosystem section for traffic mesh, we should absolutely get mesh trees represented here, or layer 5 as well. Boy, I was trying to point out the plugin ecosystem that they have. They have their plugins, you can write them in Golang, plugins and traffic pilot. Okay, anyway, not necessarily the specific focus of what we're doing, but this is just to say that other types of service meshes have the same type of plugin or a similar extensibility model in which plugins can be written to handle and manipulate traffic. In this case, they're written in Golang. Perhaps we will get there to focus on this plugin model at some point. There's another service mesh, Nginx service mesh. Nginx service mesh uses Nginx as its proxy, actually specifically Nginx Plus as its proxies. If you're familiar with Nginx, you're probably familiar with the fact that it too supports writing filters, custom filters to manipulate traffic. Those filters can be written in Lisp and C and a couple of other languages, and because I'm not horrifically familiar. But it's not far-fetched that maybe those other two would at some point also support WebAssembly programs. So it's our hope, in some respects, that as we focus on writing filters, as we focus on managing these filters, as we focus on some of the use cases like traffic mirroring, traffic capturing, traffic replay, there's other use cases, translating one protocol's version to another protocol version, or transcribing between protocols. There's a lot of use cases. Anyway, it's our hope that we can, amass any number of filters that Meshry can then use to enhance the service mesh with additional intelligence. So good. Now that I've blathered on for a long time, let me hand over to, probably to Utkarsh. Pranav, this is a quick update you wanted to give?
Yeah, it's just 1 minute to 2 minutes. So essentially, exactly what you were explaining. So I just wanted to address that, a lot of people, they aren't very familiar with how exactly, like, given the context that we're only working on the Envoy proxy sidecar right now. So a lot of people don't know how that exactly integrates into service meshes and in general about that. So I was thinking maybe at a later point of time, we could have a discussion on how to sort of, get people onboarded, like, they get the concepts and all clarified early on before they do. So there is a layer 5 learn or something that I remember somewhat. So
yeah, that's a good,
I don't learn.layer 5. So perhaps a page similar to that would be, if not a robust thing, maybe just links that, okay, you might need these concepts. So here are the links and docs you can just go through to get acclimatized to what it is. So apart from the spec, of course, so spec will be more of the why, and the links would be the how, if that makes sense.
Yep, that's a good call out. There will be any number of people coming week after week after week after week, year after year, that have that very same question. What is WebAssembly? What are these filters? Can I get an introduction to the space? What's reading that I should be doing? Are there sample filters I should be playing with? How do I play with them? Lots of those types of questions. That's an opportunity to call for a volunteer. And that is, and I'll do it right now. If no one volunteers immediately, that's okay. You might need a little bit of time to think about this. So to Pranav's point, there's a number of resources that can be published to help answer those questions. And one of those is to try your hands on a filter and see what it does. On layer5io/learn, there's an area that deals with interactive labs. We can look at all the labs right here. Different labs right now, these are oriented toward working with using Meshry to manage different service meshes. And these labs can be run. Oops, I don't think is it sharing a full screen of a terminal?
Yep. Yeah, it is.
Oh, that's impressive. Okay, good. Well, let me do this. So each of these labs introduce people to various aspects of the projects that we have here. There isn't a lab specifically dedicated to introducing people to WebAssembly filters. Oh, that might be nice. It might be nice that to have a lab that takes people through the sample application, Imagehub, which is a great sample app to look at and understand. There's a recording that a community member had given, Kanish Garjay he gave us talk at DockerCon and talked about WebAssembly and how Docker Desktop interplays, how you can use WebAssembly filters in console. I know that this is small, and so this is a great thing to walk through to just get a context and an understanding of the technology that we're focused on. But the ask or the call for a volunteer is to create an interactive lab that shows people how to deploy a service or a WebAssembly filter. That sounds really daunting for some of us. For others of us, still a little bit daunting. I'll say this, that there's a set of workshops that have been published. Well, you can go to layer5.io/workshops, or you can go to GitHub here. And there's two on Istio. One that's an introduction to Istio. It walks through Meshry and gives you different labs. There's another one that's an advanced Istio, and one of the labs is on WebAssembly filters. And so it's essentially this lab that can be made into an interactive lab. The interactive labs that we were looking at over here, if you can't tell or if you're not familiar, like this is a Katacoda environment. So we have a repository that has those 8 or more service mesh labs, those Katacoda labs. It's right here. I'll give everyone this link. So the ask is, if there's a volunteer, great, like we need another one of these labs. Each of these folders represents one of those labs.
So I've also taken the liberty to revamp the Imagehub README. So even when I started off, it was these labs that helped me, to get acclimatized with Imagehub, the concept, what it was. And based on that experience, I have created that README. So it has, several more, I guess, commands that would, ease the process of automating the deployment of Imagehub. So if you want, like, you can go ahead and take a read through that, and the writing style and all, I've kept it as how to for dummies as possible. So I mean, do give feedback on how that sounds and like how the README is, how helpful it is. But yeah, you could use a README as well.
Right. Next topic. So, Utkarsh, do you want to take it away?
Yep. So there is no much update in terms of deploying filters, at least from my side. I'm not sure about Gaurav. We haven't catched up regarding this. I think we can go through the patterns PR that Gaurav has created.
Nice. Yeah. Do you want to take us through?
Yeah. Actually, oh gosh.
So and context as well, if you would. Oops. Okay. We lost Utkarsh. He might have gotten the stop sharing screen button confused with like the end jump off the call button. I don't know.
There's a bug in Arch Linux. I don't know. Firefox crashes when you share your screen. So I guess that may be it. I don't know.
So for context of what Utkarsh is going to share is that Meshri helps people manage these filters, load them up, unload them, configure them. And it does so either you can use Meshri's command line, Meshri CTL, to eventually to load and apply these filters. Or you can use Meshri's UI to load and apply these filters. And that's all a work in progress. And so Gaurav Chadha and Utkarsh Srivastava have been working on that some. And so Utkarsh is back.
Yeah, let me share the screen. I hope it doesn't crash this time. Okay. Yeah, so recently Gaurav created this PR, which is this is still a flag feature. So basically, what this table is showing you is basically the patterns that you may have uploaded onto Meshri. You can choose any Meshri provider. So right now I'm logged into Meshri Cloud. These are the patterns that I've uploaded onto Meshri Cloud. Let's see this pattern. This pattern is basically, I have actually shown this pattern a lot of times. This is basically provisioning. This is about provisioning Istio Service Mesh. There has been some changes in the UI. If someone, I'm not sure if someone notices it or not. So earlier there used to be a very ambiguous ellipse icon in here, which has been now replaced with this edit icon, which quite indicates that you can go ahead and edit your pattern in here, and now you can save it, and it will save the changed pattern for you. And you can actually apply the pattern by clicking this button. So if I would, okay, let me share my terminal. I've got a few things running. Okay, so I don't have Istio running on my cluster right now. And this particular service mesh is regarding just that. That is what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to provision Istio Service Mesh version 1.9.1. And I'm also enabling MTLS, where policy is mutual in this particular namespace. I'm also enabling automatic sidecar injection in these two namespaces. That's what this pattern files actually says. And now what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to click on apply. It isn't, okay. So let's see if that worked. Yeah, so it's actually creating, it's actually provisioning Istio Service Mesh for me. The first spot that's coming up is Istio D, next would be Istio Ingress Gateway, and then Istio Egress Gateway. So basically the command has succeeded, almost succeeded. It hasn't sent back any response because the provisioning process is still going on. It will probably, I'm not sure if it will return back success command once the provision has succeeded. what I saw is sort of missing in here was a delete icon. That is, once I've applied the pattern, how would I delete it? So what for now we can do is actually we can run meshrectl pattern delete. That's a valid command, and you can give in the pattern file that you have just applied from here. This will actually delete all of the resources that you have provisioned via this particular pattern file. So this is one thing, and this is missing in the UI. So this is a feedback I'll give it in here. This is the UI of the PR that Gaurav has recently created.
So comments and questions on this?
Is there a way to, I mean, okay, when you say delete, do you mean delete from Meshry Cloud, or do you mean, you know, undo the pattern from whatever you wrote? Like,
The latter.
okay, cool.
Yep, so it has provisioned all of the resources that were mentioned in here. Not all of them were explicitly mentioned in here, but implicitly it was meant like, yeah, you do want these resources, and these are now provisioned by a Meshry for you. Any questions?
Cool. Two other thoughts. One is that to Pranav's earlier point, and to kind of the point of me explaining what we're talking about here, is we should get onto the agenda, and hopefully for the next time that we meet, an introduction to like WebAssembly / WebAssembly in Envoy filters, high level things, just so that everyone can orient to the technologies at hand. I think that'd be helpful. We can kind of build on that each time, and most of us here are going to be here with more questions than anything else. So that's a worthwhile thing to do, is think about that, if you would, everyone on the call. It's actually an opportunity for anyone on the call who is who doesn't know what Envoy is, what a filter is, what WebAssembly is, what the sample app Imagehub is, like how it works, what it's supposed to do. Like trying to learn that and explain it back to anyone else here is a great opportunity for you to get some airtime on the call, talk, share your thoughts, learn as you do. It's a good forcing function to make you go read about some stuff you otherwise might not read, write it down, take some notes, present it. And it doesn't have to be, the presentation can be as awesome or as short as you like for it to be, but all of us would stand to benefit. So I'll toss out that, chat amongst yourselves about that. The other thing here is that I'll clarify really quickly. This is, I lose sight of this from time to time myself. So Utkarsh mentioned that there's a missing function here, which is to delete the filter. And we probably clarify that there's sort of two different types of deleting. One is deprovisioning, and the other, deprovisioning a filter, which means when this pattern is applied, it affects your infrastructure. Meshry orchestrates Kubernetes, manages your service mesh. It literally pushes over, or it literally configures the mesh, and your filter, your binary, the small filter, is pulled over and deployed amongst the proxies that comprise the service mesh. Great. Can you undo that action? Can you deprovision? Good. We should probably, we should have a button for that. The other thing is that the actual filter itself, the small, binary, that individual file, you can upload. There's an upload arrow in the upper right-hand corner where you can upload the filter, upload that file. But we should also have a delete a delete that file button. And the two should be somehow visually indicative of how they're going to do two different things. One's going to deprovision, the other one's going to delete the file.
Utkarsh, so I just had a little bit of feedback regarding the placement of the icons and their function. So currently, okay, I don't know how much work this might be, but keeping the delete pattern within the edit dialog might not be the best thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So perhaps you can have delete pattern outside, just within the pattern name itself. And then again, if you're going to be implementing the deprovision pattern button, so one is delete, which is removing it from Meshery. The other is deprovision, which is unapplying it from whatever Kubernetes, that if that's even a correct term. So those should be kind of separate. Like you shouldn't be able to accidentally click what do you say, deprovision, and then it hits delete, and you're like, oh no. I mean, sure, maybe a dialogue, are you sure, would fix that, but just food for thought.
Yep. Yeah, so probably that needs to move out, this thing. But if it does move out, then so basically there needs to be another icon which indicates that this thing is going to deprovision everything that you have created via this particular pattern. Yeah, that would be quite cool.
So I was thinking, like, instead of having the edit and delete and provision and deprovision in the same area, how like iOS does, like it has an edit button on the top right, and then that might be too much to implement as a front end, but again, just thought.
There's a small, there's an item that's implicitly handled here and not explicitly handled just yet. And that's the question of when you do go to apply this filter, you go to deploy the filter, where to deploy that is described inside of the pattern file. But that might need to, so we have to give some thought to pulling that out and letting people and there can be different user experiences to this, but one way is when someone clicks on the deploy button, that part of that process, they would be prompted to confirm what service mesh they'd like to deploy this filter to, or even more specifically, what service mesh and then what set of services in that mesh. And so these are things that I think a number of you have considered, and we're just not there yet, but it's one of those things that's glossed over at the moment, and that's why this area has yet to be released. So actually, Utkarsh, you're on if you go to the filters, it's, okay. I see, okay. So you're giving an example of what the filters will look like with Gaurav's changes?
So this particular PR, this actually deals with Meshery patterns.
I see. Okay.
And
yeah, I'm getting confused then. Okay. But if those patterns describe a filter, that filter will be provisioned. Okay, got it. So we're still, yeah. So good. This means that for those that are on the call, like there's opportunity abound to enhance, like to jump in either on the UI or the back end to enhance the functions. So, okay. So next topic. That's great. And by the way, Utkarsh, thank you for representing Gaurav's. Thank you for being willing to receive feedback directly on Gaurav's behalf. All right, so we had some of these topics. Actually, I guess I didn't realize that we'd had this. Like I was just suggesting this. I don't believe that we have that this week. If anyone want to correct me, does someone have this to present? These are probably almost independent topics. What it is. Okay. So next up, boy, I don't know if we have this either. I mean, I know we have some of that in this specification here. Let's come back to this topic and bump all the way down to Yvonne.
I think Navendra in the chat mentioned that he wanted to add on a couple of things, I guess, with the deploying filters part. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, basically, like, I wanted to mention that, like, I posted recently on the was some Slack channel. So, a couple of considerations that we are making to deploy filters. Like, let me. So I'll just put it on the chat. Like, basically, we have a design spec to support deployment of filters. So I think most of the stuff, like how we should go about doing that, is done. So the design spec is already there. So, and a couple of us are working on some of the stuff, and yeah. So the only update is that we are making progress, and yeah. So I think we will probably have something to show by next week.
Are there good? Are there areas that others might assist with?
So I am interested on the actual Go part of it, where on the adapter side, you actually receive the filter binary or handle it through a URI, whatever the case may be, and just applying that. Perhaps even, what do you say, Rudraksh could help out with the, in case we need to generate any files or with the Go also, he could jump in.
Hi Lee, am I audible now?
You are.
Yeah. Extremely sorry. I have a office call which was coinciding with this, so I was on mute. So I saw this, but I could not answer. So basically, we had a very nice session from Pranav, and I think Vijay was also in the call, and he explained very nicely what is this, where this WASM filter sits, and the entire architecture, or where exactly we need to make the modification. So I have got the get a bit of idea, but right now I'm in the process of actually cloning the code and setting up the architecture, like entire deploying the stuff, and then the WASM filters. Once I do it, I need to reverse engineering for C++ and do it. Might be by this weekend I need to work on that. That's what I can say, but I think we are pretty much clear what has to be done. Only thing is, I am just thinking, like, I need to write a new class and put it, or how do you want it? How do you want this? How do you want the architecture to be for that?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's a great question. Actually, just even simpler than that. It mostly to start with, it is just like an explanation of Envoy's capabilities with respect to traffic mirroring, and then an explanation of its capabilities with respect to traffic capturing, like even in advance of a design spec or like architecture for what the feature would be. But is to sort of start with an understanding of what's possible with Envoy.
Okay. So
as well as the fact that, okay, I really sorry. So if you want feedback on how I went about designing, like modifying the rate limiter filter that previously existed, I'll be more than happy to do that. In chat or in the WhatsApp channel.
Cool, good. And that's actually a ways off. Like, first, what we want to do here is just learn about the capabilities of Envoy, explain those back in this call, then look at what we think we can do to take advantage of those. One of the goals here is to provide people intelligent and easy to use tooling around traffic mirroring, kind of in context of deploying canaries is the core use case, not the only use case. So there's some things to understand about the way that Envoy does traffic mirroring, or what would happen to your application if you are mirroring traffic. So it'll be duplicating requests, which is to say, if you've got a request where a user is submitting their debit card payment, for example, well, if you mirror that and process it twice, you might be double charging them, which wouldn't be good. So like understanding the mechanics and just from a learning perspective and sharing back, that's where we want to.
Okay.
I see. So is this something that, what do you say, Envoy already provides, or this is something that, I mean, is that question itself what
Nope,
is trying to
it
be
does.
answered?
No, it does
Okay.
provide.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it does.
in context of filters, then how does that function then? Because if it's just another thing that it's already existing.
Yep, that's what we're going to learn as we go through and learn about traffic mirroring, traffic capturing. Is most likely maybe it does all the things we want it to do for traffic capturing. Great, we don't necessarily need a filter to do capturing. We might need a filter to do replay of those captured packets. We might want a filter to analyze the captured packets and take action or do some informative thing. We might want to have a filter that will dynamically discern when it's appropriate to start traffic capturing and when it's appropriate to stop. And that might be like, as soon as it starts seeing some 500s, start capturing, stop capturing, only capture up to a certain limit, maybe capture continuously, so long as the latency of the responses going back to the user is under their service level objective. Like I could probably talk to you for about an hour of like the use cases that we would want to do around capturing and replaying, and around mirroring as well. But it behooves us to first just like digest the capabilities that are there. It's likely that you could do some of this work in like to enhance that and give people better tooling around it. Some of that can be done within filters. Some of that can be done outside of the data plane, like by digesting that information out of band. So, walking through those captured packets out of band, it might be that we figure out like, oh, well, actually, we can achieve some of that in band if we use eBPF, and maybe we have an eBPF program instead of a WASM filter. Like, okay, good. That's a whole other technology to get into and explore. There's a lot. Envoy has some of these capabilities. It has both. It has traffic mirroring for sure. Traffic capturing, I'm pretty sure that it has. I don't recall any specifics about caveats, but that's the ask. So given that there are two topics here, Anirban, do you want to take them both, or should we split them up?
I wanted to take both, but one at a time. So I want to study this, and I've not done much on this side, but definitely good to learn. So I need to look at that Envoy traffic capturing and about the mirroring stuff. And probably what I understand is I need not do the same way what Pranav has done for the Rust filters. Basically, it's a new concept wherein we can write our own way to do that one, like how to take the necessarily not filter it, but create one kind of adapter which processes the traffic, and based on that, it will decide some rules, like whether to duplicate or not, things like that. If I'm not wrong, please correct me. If I'm wrong, please correct me.
Honestly, I lost you. I lost you at I'm sorry.
Okay,
I was
sorry. So basically what I understand is, so whatever Pranav has written for the filters, so I need not do the same way. I can use these concepts and try to write my own logic and then plug it into the existing infrastructure. So is that what you mean? Yeah.
Nope. Actually, what we want to start with is sure, yes. Like the ask right here is just go learn something and teach the rest of us about it.
Okay.
That's this ask about Envoy traffic mirroring, Envoy traffic capturing. And so I'm looking for another volunteer to join Anirban on this.
Okay.
Anirban, for the other things about, my ask had been, there's a set of JWT transformations that were written, that a hyperlink that I pointed out of the Istio project that we're doing some things with JWT. Yeah, taking one of those and transcribing it into C++, and using it as kind of building up the repository of filters that are available to those that are using Meshry. That's great. Yeah, and it's a very helpful exercise for you to go through in general to become familiar with Meshry and all of the tech that's there.
Sure,
and
sure.
Any simple use case, like how many times is this how much traffic is this specific user making? Like how many requests is this specific user making of a given end for all the endpoints that are being served, that are flowing through this filter? That's a very helpful thing. If you think about like what Imagehub as a sample app was intended to do, it's intended to help a fake Docker hub rate limit pull requests, rate limit requests to a specific endpoint. Well, doing that in C++, great. Doing that across any number of endpoints, good. There's a different use case I was going to toss your way, but like for immediately, just getting your hands dirty with
Right.
with small items and just share those small items. It's a good thing. I know it feels kind of ad hoc for a lot of you on the call probably, but like if you're able to come and say, hey, I learned something that the Envoy's WebAssembly filters, it has an application binary interface that supports these languages. And maybe it's only 2, maybe it's 3. And hey, there's a few different build tools out there for helping build, compile to a WebAssembly target. Here's those tools. Here's the ones that we've used. Here's what we like better about these versus those. For the most part, we're kind of in a learning mode collectively. So yeah, these are good. Anybody else want to dig in with Anirban on Envoy traffic mirroring?
May I?
Yeah, very good. Rocks. Okay. Good. So we're a little bit out of order here, I think, just because we're kind of at the end of the agenda. There's some things to talk about probably for next time, which is, Utkarsh, we would want to see the deployment of filters from the filter UI and the deletion of filters, the individual files themselves from the filter UI. Do you think that those things are achievable within a week?
Yeah.
Okay. What else, guys? What else should we be queuing up for next week? There's a couple of sample topics down here. Like it'd be great if someone was able to demonstrate Imagehub as a sample app. It's just that there's more of us on the call that that don't know what to do and what we're doing. We should lean into educating ourselves for a little while, as opposed to trying to achieve a bunch of specific things. So as part of that, it's an open call for people that want to put their name next to these things.
So I can demo Imagehub. That's not an issue. But I'm just worried about. I'm not exactly worried. The time constraint. That's my only thing. So
You mean for the meeting time or for?
Yeah, so since like okay, so this demonstration is supposed to be on the weekly call, right? The weekly wasn't call. So I was just thinking about that.
Cool. Yeah. So Pranav, if anyone's interested in like walking through Imagehub and understanding it, and then showing that they can run it in your environment next week, please get with Pranav, and he can help ensure that you're successful in doing that. And so Pranav, like, we'll hit two birds with one stone, both helping ramp someone else up, as well as getting the
Not having to do work. Yeah.
What else? We're about.
Lee, I have a question, like on the deployment of filters from the UI, like we still don't have the endpoint yet ready yet, like because we have to serve the file, and like there are a lot of considerations like for the deploy part. So what exactly will we be showcasing next week?
So it should be the case that, so if filters are able to be deployed from the patterns table, from a pattern, that by next week, if someone can deploy a filter from that filter UI, from that table, what would need to happen is they just need to answer some of this, like in a very generic way. Some of these things can be hard coded at the moment, but in a very generic way, it's just, well, what service mesh did you want to apply that to? And that's clearly not all of the ways in which you can configure a filter, but it's the first step. It's like, and the other aspects of how to configure the filter, we wouldn't be asking the user necessarily, or if we can, great. It was, which is things like, is this inbound or is this outbound? Where is this in the filter chain? Those various things. Nivendu, does that help? Like, just
okay, yeah, but the like in the pattern file, or if in the filter UI, like the way we have planned to deploy filters is that the actual filter binary will be served by, like if it is stored in Meshery Cloud or in Meshery locally, it should be served by Meshery server, right? So
right.
that part needs to be added, and I think I will add this week, and Pranav will be working on the Istio adapter side of things, I guess.
Okay. And if that didn't happen, you can still show deployment of a filter from the UI. Just that filter would be in GitHub or some other public accessible URL.
Yeah, okay, yeah, makes sense.
Which is like, basically we already have this today. Like this would just be moving it over to, well, it's not just moving it over, but we have the mechanics of this today.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Lee, I did message. Okay, sorry, please go ahead.
Oh, no, I was mentioning that Gaurav already has an open PR on this, I guess, to dynamically create the forms to configure filters. Okay, go ahead, Pranav.
Yeah, no, so it's fine. I can just talk to Lee about this later.
Cool. Did anybody on the call wanting to take one of these topics on, the ones at the bottom here? What is Envoy? What are filters? Somebody want to engage?
Am I eligible?
Yeah.
What is Envoy? I mean,
nice.
I have to read it.
Yeah, nice. And good. That's great.
And you can put WebAssembly for me.
Oh, nice. Look at that. Look at all these brave souls. Just kidding. Good. That's wonderful.
Because ultimately I have to learn that.
Lee, just a question. Do I have to demo ImageHub or do I, just give a brief what is?
None of it. You are to support any other volunteer that wants to demo ImageHub.
Okay, fine, sure. Just hit me up, anyone who wants to do this.
There he is, Mr. Bose.
Yeah, one more item. So if we are deploying filters with pattern files, right? So we will specify the link to the filter, right? Is that how we are planning to deploy? Or the name of the filter?
Sorry, I wasn't listening to the first part. Yeah, it's doing it like the URL to the filter. Like you're saying when someone and by the way, it would be great if I was actually running Meshery to show people the filter UI, the table. Like what was the question? Like
in pattern files, like how do we describe a filter? I guess like there was a comment on the design spec for filter deploy. Like if Utkarsh can provide a sample, like how it will look like.
Yeah, I'll provide a sample.
Okay.
By the way, just as a quick call out as well, like there's a discourse forum. There's a service mesh forum here, which I encourage all of you to jump on and ask questions and engage and answer questions. And somebody needs to, if other people don't jump in, Samir will be this month's leader. So, but out here under service mesh patterns, a couple of you had posted some sample patterns. This one looks like it deals with filter patterns. Utkarsh, is this?
Yeah, this is a, yeah.
Good. So this is a sample pattern file that describes a filter, and when applied through Meshery will deploy the filter. Okay. Cool. Anybody have anything else today? What else did we not cover? Well, going once. All right. Hey, it's nice to see you all. Good to get introduced to a couple of new people as well. We'll see you all in a week. It looks like we've got lots of learning to do, lots of sharing to do. So next week might be have a small demo, hopefully, from Navendu and Gaurav potentially. And then the rest might be on learning. So yeah. Okay. See you all in a week.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
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 Thanks. See you.